Hello, everyone, and welcome to my tier ranking of all 100 webtoons that I read in the year 2021. This doesn't count any anthologies that I read because I know I read about maybe 5 or 10 horror anthologies because they're either like one-offs or just like 3-episode chapters, and they're anthologies, so they're only as good as each individual story arc. But this is like my first year really getting into webtoons, and I am very happy with everything that I read this year. Well, not everything, which we're gonna get to up here in my tier. We have 7 categories. We have Hallelujah music, which is the best of the best. Then we got the good tier. You know, it was just so good, but there was like maybe one thing off, like the ending or one character I just couldn't stand. Then we got the meh, like, yeah, it was fine. Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna spend my time reading something else. Followed by the oi, it's so bad. It's dead. It should die with fire. Followed by the trash. Everything that I hated in webtoons. DNF means all the webtoons that I gave up reading, did not finish. And then on the very last tier, we have the ones I am currently reading. I think it's about 13 or 15. But now that we're all properly introduced to how the tier works, I'm gonna show you guys everything that I read this year. Do I actually remember any of these people's names? Probably not. Will I forget many of these webtoons' actual names? Absolutely. That's why I'm looking on my phone in my hand right now to find out what these things are called. But that ain't gonna stop me, because first off, we're starting with Your Letter, which goes right into good. This is a very, Studio Ghibli webtoon. It has, all the, two strangers coming together as best friends. They are at the same high school together. The girl, she's very new, feeling a little out of place, while the dude, he's more of the outcast on the side. He's been at the high school forever. But when the girl goes to class on her first day, she finds a letter in her desk, and it was written by some mysterious student who sat at that desk before her. And the letter sends her on a scavenger hunt, just telling her, oh, this is the school, here's some good people you should be friends with. Kind of like a guide, a mentor that she never gets to meet. And this mysterious student was the main male character's best friend, but something tragic happened that separated them. And it is very short, but it's such a warm-hearted story. Like these two kids who are missing out on something, they're brought together by this kind of a omniscient narrator sort of man. They have to get together to solve the mystery about what happened to their mutual friend, and it's just, it's so cute and very short. Next up, we have Catharsis. This is one of the first webtoons I started reading, but it is super long. The art style, though, is super beautiful. It has a kind of watercolor, blurry, effect to it. Like everything kind of looks like a painting that you kind of have to squint at. The colors are beautiful. However, this is gonna go into the meh category. Now this fine looking fellow here is our main character. What sets him apart from everyone else is that he has this ability to see colors when people speak. Everybody has a unique voice, but additionally to him, he sees a color paired with people. This ability, however, in addition to being swept up in some crazy situations out of his control, it was actually kind of funny because he was the main character for the longest time, but it was like he was the bystander for a long time. He was just so overwhelmed by all the monster madness happening around him. But eventually he captures the attention of this super secret group, and they recruit him kind of unwillingly into their ranks. And they teach him how to use his power for good. The art style, amazing, loved it. However, it was a very long webtoon, and explaining what the plot was about happened way too slow, especially with how the magic system works. It was oftentimes too confusing or too complex. The characters were really fun, but half the times we would go out on missions and I wouldn't know what we were trying to accomplish. And towards the end of the series, it especially got really confusing. There was so much promise in it too, because this new character came in and she was just so intriguing, and she was tied into our main character. But again, what exactly they were doing, how they got there, what their powers were. It was so confusing. And also, this series, it does not end. It has an ending, but you can tell that there's definitely supposed to be a season 2. And season 2 never happened, so it has a very unsatisfying ending. Again, the best part of this was the art. Next up, we have Oh Holy, which I am currently reading. Oh Holy is about this boy who can see ghosts and this girl named Holy. I keep calling her Holly, but apparently her name is Holy in the book, but I'm gonna call her Holly. Holly, she has the ability to like leave her body behind and just walk around like a spirit, so they get along fine, they're dating, and it's so cute. It's just about all the shenanigans that this unlikely couple gets into, because he can see ghosts, but he's also easily possessed, so Holly is always trying to knock a ghost out of his body. They try to go on dates and get interrupted by ghosts all the time. They also have this friendly Grim Reaper guy following them around, just making havoc everywhere. It's very cute, not really plot heavy, and it's just a thrill to read for all the jokes. Next up, we have The Devil is a Handsome Man. Again, beautiful art style, but the plot is so confusing. Like, in the beginning, it was super simple. Our main character, Demon Lady, she goes to the agency, the business that the devil runs, and it's never made clear if I think he's like the king, or like at least it makes it look like in this series that he's like the president of a corporation, but he's the devil, so I'm assuming he's a king, but is that really explained? And our main demon lady, she wants him to restore some memories that she's losing. He's like, oh sure, you can do that, but you gotta like work for me for a bit. And so they do that, and they have really good banter. But as the series got deeper and deeper into the actual plot and how important the past was in addition to our present adventures, it gets really complicated. And originally there were so many cool character designs. Even the side characters looked fantastic, so all monster demony. However, too many people came into the story, and even though they were all crazy unique looking, it was so hard to tell them apart, their stories, their names. It was just like a big tangle of people. And this series is currently ongoing, like it's on hiatus right now, but I haven't stuck around. The plot hasn't stuck in my head, so I'm not really interested in reading it anymore. So it's technically a did not finish, but I am kind of finished. Next up, we have Refund High School. Now this one, it took me a very long time to get into, because it is about these 4 high school students who all at the same time die in a car accident. And because they're so young, the ruler of the underworld is like, hey, I'm going to send you to Refund High School, where if you get good grades, you can be reincarnated into the life that you want. And for the longest time, it's just these kids, getting to know each other again at the high school, doing activities, making friends. And that wasn't my favorite, but then it started actually getting into the plot involving like sea serpents and stuff, which was very nice. We got to go to field trips in the underworld, and the action and the pacing started picking up, and so it started to become pretty good, and the ending was absolutely phenomenal. It honestly almost made me cry, because it was good and bittersweet at the same time. It's on Daily Pass right now, so I was able, because there was a special event happening, I was able to get 5 daily passes a day for like a whole month, so that greatly helped me get through it, especially with the slow pacing. But in the end, I was very satisfied with this one. Next up, we have the one that tore out my heart. It's Days of Hannah. This one is going hallelujah music. Days of Hannah is about a world where werewolves and humans kind of coexist, but not really. Werewolves are like the dangerous second-class citizens, and they're more existing as the pets to the humans. Like, they have to wear these shock collars, they can't go outside without their owner, and they are 100% not allowed to fall in love with their owner. But no one told our main boy that. He has fallen in love with his human owner, and she might be starting to feel something towards them, and it's just a good tale about, discrimination, acceptance. The characters were all fantastic. If you like werewolf fights, it has so many good werewolf fights. Loved it. The ending had all of the feels. It was great watching these characters grow up, and I really want them to come back. I want more, and I love the series so much. Next up, we have A Bite Me, a classic tale of vampire love triangle shenanigans. It is always so bad. Well, the first season, it was fine. It was setting up a very good story. It had the girl who's like descended from vampire hunters, the vampire dude who loves her, the childhood best friend trying to save her from falling in love with the dangerous vampire, the girl in the thumbnail right there with her curly black hair and her sadistic red smile. She was fantastic, and season 1 was building up into a great series. However, Season 2, it dropped the ball big time. Our two main leads, they were going on a road trip to somewhere, and it just lasted forever. It was so sluggish. I couldn't even remember where we were going to, why it was so urgent to get there. So the villains weren't even in the series until the final 15 episodes, I feel like. And even the author came out with a Q&A little episode and said that they lost interest in writing the series, or they just weren't equipped to handle the amount of story and plot that they originally wanted to write about. So the story, Bite Me, got wrapped up really fast, and it didn't have a good ending or closure. Next up, we have Fever King. This one I did not finish, because when I started reading it, it was finished without Daily Pass. So I was reading 2 episodes a day, and I wasn't that interested. It was a lot of exposition, talking about so many characters that didn't appear in the comic, so it was hard keeping track of what was actually going on. We're in this world where I think they're called Atlanteans, even though I didn't even see a glimpse of Atlantis in this book, I think. Oh yeah, and it is a book that was also made into a webtoon. So that's interesting. I might read the book one day. But the Atlanteans, they are the second-class citizens looked down upon by everyone. And I do think, at least as far as I got in the series, that they are kind of responsible for this virus sweeping across the world, or at least they're blamed to be responsible for this virus. So that adds to more hatred for their race. And it has 100% kill rate. But our main character guy, he survives the virus, and it gives him these tremendous powers. And so the main government is like, oh hey, come work for us now, yay. He's like, I will secretly take you down. And so it sounds cool, and I liked watching him use his powers, but it was still just a lot of story to take in. And then when I was a quarter into it, it changed into a Daily Pass series, and I just didn't feel gripped enough with the story to keep reading it at just 1 episode per day, so I stopped. Next up, we have Hooky, which I am currently reading, and it's great. It's fantastic. So the running joke in the comment section is that this was originally just a story about 2 witch kids, Danny and Dorian, going off to their magical school, but they end up missing the bus. And because they miss that bus, so much crazy stuff has happened to them. And they're just little kids, and they miss their bus, but they don't want to tell their parents that they missed their bus for some reason. So oh, let's just go and find a wizard master to teach us all by themselves, and then we'll write letters to our parents, and we'll pretend we're in school, and just shenanigans happens. And at first it doesn't seem like it's gonna be a real heavy plot, but then you get deeper into the stories, and yeah, the plot gets super interesting. I'm 30 episodes away from finishing it, and I loved the second to last season. Is fantastic. Next up, we have A Good Day to Be a Dog. So, I liked this one, but it wasn't really my favorite, so it's gonna go into meh. This is about a girl, and her whole family line is cursed to turn into a dog whenever a dude kisses them. So that makes dating life really awkward. And our main girl, she accidentally kisses this really mean teacher that she does not like. She's a teacher too, and because he kissed her, she is now turning into a dog every midnight, and the only way to stop the curse is to have him kiss her again, but as her dog form. The big problem is, the dude she accidentally kissed is super afraid of dogs. It was very cute and fun. It does have one of my least favorite tropes in webtoons in it, and it is a spoiler what it is, so if you don't want to know what it is, look away from the screen right now, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen. There it is, and now it's gone. Yeah, so it has that trope that I see all the time, and I'm well, why do we always have to do that? But it was a cute ride. I honestly don't even remember, how it ended, but I was rooting for our main couple the whole way. It was great. Oh, and the villain turned out to be pretty fun, too. Very petty, and I like that in a villain. Next up, we have the first webtoon I ever read and finished, Ghostwise. So good. It's fantastic. I've read it twice. Loved it. This is about a high school girl, and, she's just chilling one day, and she looks out her bedroom window, and she sees this handsome hunk of muscle outside eating a cat. And she's like, oh, that's not normal. And the dude, he sees her, so he climbs up the building, busts open her window, and he's like, huh, so I'm a ghost. Oh no, what am I gonna do with you? Am I gonna eat you, or am I gonna make you my wife? And so begins the most beautiful love story. He sounds crazy, because he's eating a cat, but he's the sweetest little cinnamon roll, and I love him so much. And we got to meet so many cool, like, mythical creatures in this series. Great side characters like Jade and Drake. I love it so much, and it was a very good introduction to Webtoons for me. Oh, and it currently has a sequel series out called Half Ghost. I haven't read it yet because I want like all the episodes to come out so I can binge it, but I am super excited that the legacy lives on. Next up we have I Don't Want to Be That Kind of Hero, which I DNF'd very shortly into it because it was just so random. Like our main character is in the icon right there, and I think he has some type of psychic powers, and he gets unwillingly recruited into this superhero agency. I think they go out on missions and stuff, but very early on I was just greatly confused by everything. There were characters that were just popping up on screen and I didn't feel like we were properly introduced to them, and I wasn't having any fun, so I left very soon. Alright, we have Melvina's Therapy. So this is like one of those. Oh, beautiful art style, by the way. It's black and white, so it's simplistic, but so much detail. You can tell just like looking at the thumbnail. To me, it's going into meh, because I feel like it's one of those webtoons that are just too smart for me. So I don't know what the heck it was trying to say, but it is one of those. It's like a pseudo anthology. A pseudo anthology that does ultimately wrap up into like an overarching plot line. So I do like that. And it does have some very scary imagery. Like, it's hard to read this one at night. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put it into good because it's just too smart for me. I don't know what it was trying to say, but I'm sure it said it well. Very spooky. So I had fun with it. Next up we have, I think this is called Arcursian. I DNF'd it, but I also just want you to know it's pretty bad. So no, it's trash, but it's technically I did not finish. Number one thing I did not like, honestly, I can't even tell you what this story is about because I left pretty soon. I think this man has powers, but he hasn't discovered them yet, and he's like the ancestor, I think, of this. No, he is the descendant of this guy who did something to greatly offend these three magical women, and now they're out to get him. Two things I did not like about this is that they kept calling this guy, I'm gonna call him Bob Smith, because I can't remember his name. They kept calling Bob Smith by his full name. Bob Smith. Bob Smith. Oh, Bob Smith, we need you. And it just annoyed me to like a ridiculous degree. And also, I was not a fan of the art style. Usually, like, I'm very easy to please with art style, but this one has that traditional comic book feel, and I just was not vibing with it. It gave everyone such a static wooden expression, so I left. This one is Rot and Ruin. It is actually a book series too, just like Fever King. However, what you do need to know is I'm putting it in meh because it is like a comic about the first book, but it greatly like teases that there's going to be a second series because there's a second book in the series, so there needs to be a sequel to this, but so far I don't think there is, so it kind of like ends on a, well, what happens next? Are we going to get answers or anything? And I originally thought that this comic was going to be like a spoof about the zombie apocalypse trope because it was very lighthearted and funny in the beginning, but then we kind of lost that and then it just became another typical zombie thriller webtoon, and I read a lot of those. I get tired of the zombie trope really easily. So it had me intrigued for like the first 10 episodes, but then when we actually have to go on this quest to find this one girl, and the one girl kind of appeared out of nowhere, but apparently everybody thinks she's the bee's knees and we have to save her and stuff like that. And she's like this legend. Yeah, like I didn't really care. It did have very good moments though. I remember like 2 scenes very vividly because it was good tension, but because so much of the rating I give webtoons depends on the ending, this one did not land it, so that's why it's a meh. Next up, we have Cheese in the Trap. Oh, that's going into good. So good. Now, I tell my friend all the time that I love this webtoon. The only thing keeping it from Hallelujah music is that it is kind of hard to get into. You're dropped into this college setting. Our girl Soul, she's just trying to do her best in college. She's overworked, she's tired, she's trying to fit in, but she also has this weird guy, Jung, right behind her in the icon, just kind of creeping her out. Like, he's kind of that fake smiley type, and you know he's plotting something, but you can't say anything because he's so polite and nice to everyone. And their interactions, this webtoon is like a whole example on how first impressions matter a lot, and these two just constantly got bad first impressions with each other, but it was great to see how their relationship evolved from that point. And like I said, I was very confused in the beginning because we had so many characters and they all looked alike. And in the beginning, I did not like the color scheme of this webtoon. Like, as you can see just by looking at the icon, it's very brown and yellow, and I get because it's cheese in the trap, but it makes it very hard to like tell characters apart from each other, especially if they have like the same black hair and hairstyle, which I think at least 3 people in this comic do. But I just kept reading it, and I'm so glad I did, because eventually everything just fell into place and it clicked and I understood everything. And from then on, I was just enjoying everything. And it looks like it's a typical love triangle, but it's so much more than that. It shows good relationships and the importance of just talking. Next up, we have Gourmet Hound, which I just finished like a day ago. It's going into good too. Plot-wise, it is very slice of life, and that's typically something I don't like, but it's about this girl, and she loves food. She has a fantastic sense of smell, and recently her favorite restaurant it's still open, but she noticed there's something very different about the food. Like, they have a new chef and she does not like it. She wants the old chef back, so she's on this journey to find the chef that cooked all this amazing food that's so tied in to her own identity and her childhood. So if you're a foodie and you just like watching cute characters make a lot of food, and if you're character driven and just want to see some good people that get to know each other better, this is good. It's pretty slow, but it ultimately does lead up to a very good message, and it's just so cute. Next up, we have Grimmerly Land. I'm currently reading this. I have like 3 episodes left on Daily Pass. It's by the same author that wrote Melvina's Therapy, and let me tell you, I think there's like 3 or 4 seasons, and I was enjoying season 1 so much. It's about like these 6 kids, I think, who get invited to go to this amusement park, and it goes down south really fast. Like, people get killed and stuff, and it turns out this whole amusement park is like this great revenge scheme for some reason that we have to solve, and I was loving that, but I am so lost in the plot. I don't know who wants revenge on who, what we're doing, who is funding this expensive amusement park. I don't know what's going on anymore, but I've stuck around this long and I'm gonna finish it. Next up, we have Countdown to Countdown. This one was a very good webtoon. However, like, they stopped uploading it, the webtoon. They have it on their own website, and because I'm too lazy to go to the website, I didn't finish reading it, and it was good. It's been a long time since I've read this one. If I remember right, like, the people with powers in this group are like divided into flower types, and our main character, who's on the icon right there, he's like the most dangerous flower type, and his mom is like running the whole group trying to kill all the flowers, but she keeps him alive for some reason, but he has to like walk on eggshells around her because he knows if he displeases his mom, he's in big trouble. So eventually our main character meets this other guy who is like, oh, I'm gonna take down this evil group trying to kill the flower people, and so they go on adventures together trying to escape his mom, and it was good. I'm just lazy. And also, I tried going on their website and I just couldn't navigate it well. It was hard like picking up on the episode I left off on previously, but still very good. Next we have My Boo. I don't like this. It's about a girl who moves in to a house and it's haunted by this cute guy over here. He's covered in flour because he's a ghost, and they start to fall in love each other. But it's like throughout the whole series, it's just these 2 people talking to each other at our house, and that's it. Just sitting there looking at each other, talking and talking and talking, and that's it for the whole series. We could have done all that in just like a couple of chapters, have this be a mini series or something, and then it ended and I didn't like the ending, so it's trash. Next up we have this one. It has a bad word in the title, so I'm not gonna say the name. I'll put it on the screen though, but also know it's a hallelujah music one. It's fantastic. It's actually probably my favorite webtoon so far. This one is about a guy. I think his name is Jin. Jin's not your typical guy. He's the son of a serial killer, but no one knows he's a serial killer. And Jin's very anti-killing people, but his dad makes him kill people, so he's an accomplice too, and he's only like 12, and it's awesome. Jin is very conflicted. Well, he doesn't like his dad, but he can't turn him in because the dad will probably kill him, and he also has to make sure he doesn't appear stronger than his dad at any given point, or his dad will see him as a threat and then kill him. And even worse, Jin, if that is his name, I don't know, he's fallen in love with a girl, and he does not want his dad to find out because he will kill her. He also has a new friend at school, and he doesn't want his dad to find out because he might kill him. It's fantastic. Tension everywhere. My favorite thing about the comment section about this webtoon is that the dad apparently has teleporting powers. He doesn't really, but the amount of time this guy just shows up. Everybody in the comments is like, look at him teleporting again. He's crazy. I love him. Next up, we have Wolfsbane. I love the art in this one. It's going into good. Get in there. It kind of looks like it's been drawn with a crayon, and I love it. It's a very short series about this werewolf hunter, and she takes on this young protege. She's teaching her ways, how she's like the descendant of a werewolf hunting family, and her family and the werewolf family have been feuding for years, and she's out to kill the remaining werewolf descendant. It's very short, and it's great. Loved it. Our main girl characters were kick butt. It was so actiony. I love the designs of everyone, especially the monsters and the werewolves. So yes, please give that a read. Next up, we have Play Dead. This is another webtoon that only posted a couple of episodes before moving to a different platform, and it was nice. It was about this Grim Reaper guy, but their whole like death system works differently than what we'd think about death, and he's like very bored at his job too, but he's like a reluctant Grim Reaper, and I was having fun with it. It was actually pretty funny early on, but again, I'm lazy, and I don't feel like hunting down where the rest of this webtoon is located on the internet, so it's staying in the did not finish category. Next up, we have The Wolf and Red Riding Hood. This is going into oi so bad because it had so much promise at the start, mostly because of the ending. Definitely the ending. This is about your normal high school girl, except when she gets into high school, she starts getting hairier. She starts eating a ridiculous amount of meat. That's because she's turning into a werewolf, and she's trying not to do that because it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, she has ears popping out of her head. She gets a tail too, and it's kind of hard to hide that. So she goes on this, not really a quest, but she's trying to find a way to like cure her of her curse. And this like takes her on a journey to meeting this guy who can see ghosts, and this friend, this girl who is like possessed by a bird spirit. And it's like their relationships were fantastic. I loved watching them interact off each other. But I think this one was more, I think would have been better suited to be a cute slice of life with just a little bit of plot, because once the plot really started happening, it was very meh. There's this organization out that catch this werewolf girl, and I found their motive just really bland and stereotypical. So it started off well, but then it dropped the ball later on. Next up, we have Control Z. This one, I'm gonna put it in meh. Know that I like this, but again, the ending. I don't even know what happened in the ending. I can picture it clearly in my mind, but I don't know how to explain it. Like, does this guy look familiar in Icon? Doesn't he look like Light Yagami? Well, that's supposed to happen, because this is very close to Death Note. Control Z is about this guy. I can't remember his name, but he one day finds this laptop, and if you press Control Z on the laptop, you can delete people's memories, and he uses this for very selfish reasons. He is like, one thing I love about this series is that he's the villain, and we're in his point of view, and sometimes we're actually rooting for him. So that's the main thing I loved about it. Absolutely did not like the art style. Like, everybody looked so ugly from every angle, but all the heists that happened, the action, that was great, but the ending did kind of let me down. And sometimes the plot did get very convoluted, like in Death Note. Next up, we have Ghost Teller, which I am currently reading. I don't know how I'm going to rate this later on because it's an anthology about ghosts just getting together and telling scary stories. I feel like this is definitely going to be like a overarching plot line, like in Melvina's Therapy, but right now I'm just enjoying the cool character designs, like especially this guy with this funny see-through hat. I love it. Next up, we have Brothers Bond, which I DNF'd because it was just exposition. It's about this boy, he's the prince, but one day he messes up really bad. He breaks the sacred medallion, so he runs off into the jungle, and he's taken in by these two blind dudes. It sounds cool, but then they just keep talking and talking about history and the plot and history, and none of them are really people because they're just talking about history. They're textbooks, and I didn't like it, so I left, as I usually do. Next up, we have Rotten. This one, I'm gonna give a nice meh. It's just nice. It's about this apartment building, and something shady is happening in this apartment. We have this guy who can see ghosts, and the ghosts keep like indicating to the guy, hey, there's something bad going on here. We want you to like try to solve it. We also have this police officer who can smell when people are lying and when they're telling the truth. One day, the young boy's friend goes missing, and he goes missing in the apartment, so they're trying to find him, and it just leads to a whole bunch of other monster shenanigans. The girl with the baseball bat gets involved. solve because I think her sister goes missing in the same apartment building, so something sketchy is happening. There's also this abandoned room, and it's supposed to be abandoned, but it's pretty obvious that a bunch of people are living in it, so they're trying to solve that mystery too. The main villain I remember of this series, he kind of came out of nowhere, and I don't even know what he wanted. I know he explicitly stated what he wanted. I think he was just like sadistic, and he just like making miserable just for the sake of being miserable. But he came, and that was it. I didn't really feel any like hype with him. He didn't get me excited, and that's very sad because I always love a villain. I remember the ending too. It kind of perplexed me because it's a very history is repeating itself ending, but then it never expands on that. It just leaves it to trail off into the distance. Next up, we have Under Prin. I DNF this one, but it's trash. Actually, I'm gonna put Arcurian in this too because they're just both bad. Under Prin. This is the first webtoon I actually stopped reading. This is about a demon lord, and he doesn't really want to be a demon lord anymore. He wants to be with the humans, and he even has this son that he loves so much. But because of a curse that his demon mom put on him, he's eventually doomed to kill his son. So he's trying to stop that from happening. Now, very early on in the series, it's impossible to tell the son and the dad apart. They look exactly the same, so that leads to a lot of confusion. But the thing that killed me in this series is that the exposition is so badly handled. I heard that it's just like an issue with the translation, and that in the Korean version it's very like easy to grasp, but it was not done well in the English version. New characters would just pop up on screen and we wouldn't even get introduced to them really. I remember characters would just be expressing these feelings like just randomly, like all of a sudden this character would be sad or conflicted and you're just like, why? Nothing happened. Overall, unpleasant and very confusing experience, so I left, even though I did try hard to stick around with it, but I just couldn't. Next up, we have Assassin Roommate, which I am currently reading. I mean, the title kind of explains what's going on. Two people living together, one of them's an assassin, they're probably gonna fall in love. And it's great. I'm about like 80 episodes in out of like 130, I think. And it's got all the actiony best friend bonds that I really like. I really like the art style, because even though if you just look at it, it looks really simplistic. I don't know, just something about it is really charming. Most of the times too, there just isn't like a background, and I don't know. I kind of like that because it reminds me of how if I ever started a webtoon, because I hate drawing backgrounds, that's what I would do. Next up, we have Crumbs. This one was so cute. It's going into good. Now, if you ever want to just binge this webtoons, because it's like 50 or 60 episodes, I highly suggest you take your phone or your laptop to a cafe and you just sit down and read it, because it is the perfect ambiance for this book. I mean, web series, you know. There is no grand plot. It's very slice of life. It's just this girl and this guy. Well, the girl's a witch, the dude's ordinary. They're falling in love together at the cafe he works at. Now, she is a hopeless romantic, and because of her witch powers, whenever she touches someone, she can get a glimpse of their future or how they're feeling. And because of that, people are like put off about being around her because she can like see their secrets very quickly. So she's very iffy and skittish about getting into a relationship, and it's just so cute seeing these two, this couple, just get to know each other and talk about their feelings. Even though it's very like briefly explained and a light world building system, the magic in this book is it's adorable, especially with the magic on how their phones work. I love that, and the little sprites that their phones would create. Next up, we have My Daughter is a Zombie, which is pretty hilarious. It's great. I loved it. Like I said, I'm very tired about the whole zombie trope, but this one is definitely making fun of the whole genre, and it is just downright hilarious. It's about this dad and his daughter, and they're just living their best lives, and then the zombie apocalypse happens, and while they're escaping, the daughter gets bit by a zombie. Eventually, the government, the military, they kill all the zombies except the daughter because the dad hid her away. And he doesn't want his daughter to be killed, so he refuses to turn her over to the government. And he's like, well, what if I just like raise her at home? Maybe I'll be able to like reawaken her human side, and I'll teach her not to bite people. And it's just hilarious what goes on. My favorite character is the cat. The cat was awesome. Next up, Hallelujah, Sweet Home. Loved it. Yeah, I did like this one more than Sweet Home, but they're by the same author, so I love them both. Sweet Home, fantastic. This dude, he is very depressed. He's moved into this apartment building. I've noticed a trend with webtoons. Apartment buildings equal everybody's gonna die. And speaking of die, this dude, yeah, he's decided he's gonna kill himself really soon. After the premiere of his favorite anime movie, then he's gonna die. However, before that day comes, everyone just starts turning into monsters and, killing and eating people. So he joins the apocalypse group to try to survive, and it's fantastic. I loved it. It was creepy. It was cool. no, my favorite character died a gruesome death, and I'm not fine with that, but it's still great. Next up, we have Unlovable Replacement. So this series is currently on hiatus, so it's still ongoing. I mean, Webtoons is the only platform or like medium of entertainment, like books or TV, where I like contemporaries and romance. And it's a very funny one, but I'm also like, there's so many better ones out there. Like Cheese and the Trap or Crumbs. It's about this guy eating the pizza right there. He just got through a horrible breakup, and this girl, she delivers the pizza. So they enter into a fake dating relationship because at that same moment, his ex-girlfriend is coming up the stairs to collect her stuff. So he's like, hey, can you pretend to be my new girlfriend real quick? So my ex doesn't think I'm pathetic for moaning over her because he still loves his ex. So their whole fake relationship is very funny, especially when they realize that they've actually met each other before, like in the past. And I read season 1. It was good, but it was just good. I'll read season 2 when it comes out, but right now it's just it was good, but not good, Next up, we have Pigpen. Same author that wrote that one and Sweet Home. It's just good. I enjoyed it. It didn't hit me as well as his other 2 works. This one is about a guy who washes up on an island. It's not deserted. There's actually a family living on the island, and this family is sketchy, and he's pretty certain that they're all murderers and they're gonna try and kill him. But they're also the only humans on the island. They have the only source of food and shelter, so he has to live with them and try not to get killed. It was great. I loved solving the mystery about the island. There was eventually a thing revealed at the very end of the webtoons where I'm like, that seems a little on the nose, but I was still enjoying it. It was fun, very creepy, didn't know who to root for, but everyone's just so morally gray in this book, but I had a blast with it. Next up, we have Toaster Dude, which is going right into hallelujah music. It is so funny. I remember reading like someone's comment saying that this is the most unoriginal yet the most original comic out there, and they're right. It's just about this dude. All he wants is to buy a toaster, and someone steals his toaster, which sends him on this vigilante quest. He's a superhero, but he doesn't want to be a superhero. Like, if he sees a building filled with burning people, and if he sees his beloved toaster about to get run over by a car, what do you think he's gonna save? He doesn't care about people. He wants his toaster. Again, I love spoofs, so this is a spoof on the whole superhero genre, and it was fantastic. Next up, we have SID. I think that means like Spiritual Investigation Division. I DNF'd it. It's about this guy. He can see ghosts, and eventually he gets recruited into this agency that tries to solve, the murders of ghosts or something like that. I DNF'd it pretty quick because, like, it had promise at first, but it somehow managed to move too fast and too slow at the same time. Like, it took forever to solve the mysteries in this book. Not this book, this webtoon. Sorry, I keep saying that. And they just got each little storyline, mystery case that they got involved in just got too convoluted as each episode wore on. And in the beginning, our main character guy, he meets this red-headed weirdo. That's the best way to describe him. And he's a great character. He's the best character in the whole series. But it's like these two meet up and they're just like immediately like teammates. And I'm like, how did you guys even get to know each other? So I think it doesn't explain things well, and I just wasn't enjoying myself. And even when the cases were solved, I didn't feel like they were solved because I felt like I was missing out on things. So I DNF'd it. Next up, we have Yumi Cells, which I'm currently reading. There's like 500 episodes, so it's gonna take a while. I'm only like 200 episodes in. And this is just about your normal average girl and just all the cells and personalities in her. Like, you got the rational cell, the cheapskate cell, the naughty cell, and it's just so cute. If you like Inside Out, it has that kind of vibe, but I like this one a little bit better, actually. Next up, we have Ghost Theater. I liked it, but not that much. I'm gonna put it in meh. This is about an actress who, after a terrible accident that killed both her parents, she kind of went to a shock that affects her face. She can't express things anymore. She can't express emotions, which is really bad as an actress. But by happenstance, she manages to find the Ghost Theater, where ghosts will go to and they'll watch plays that are somehow relevant to how they died in their past life, and it can help them find closure in order to move on to the next life, to reincarnation or nirvana. And it's here that our main character realizes that she can be possessed by ghosts and they can act through her, and she's able to like use her face again. And so she, along with the owners of the Ghost Theater, they help ghosts get their closure. They learn how they died, or they try to solve how they die, and it was very good. I liked it. Just not enough to put it in the good category. It was still good. It reminds me of the anime Death Parade a lot. If you've seen that before, they're pretty similar. Next up, we have Sirens Lament. It's good. It's good. It's about, well, first off, I love the whole siren lore and the siren curse in this book. They're very unique, and the art's just downright beautiful. Characters are so funny, and the love triangle was perfect. But what this comic is about, our girl right there, she accidentally falls under the siren's curse, which typically it takes a heartbroken person who tries to drown themselves at sea, and a siren will swim up, kiss them, and they'll swap places. So the heartbroken human becomes the siren, loses their memories, and wanders to sea until they can find another human to do the kiss thing all over again with, and the siren takes the human's place and gets their legs and can walk back up on the shore and live a new life. Well, our girl did not mean to fall into the ocean, but she was feeling very heartbroken at the moment because the guy she loved is dating someone else, and so she was feeling sad, and then this siren is just swimming around, and he's like, oh, well, I'm gonna kiss her, and then that happens. But the curse doesn't work exactly as planned, and now those two gotta figure out why the curse isn't working that well. There was a plot twist in this webtoon that I did not see coming, so kudos for that. It was fantastic. I loved it. Next up, we have Death's Game. Hallelujah music. I love it. This is about a guy, because he's lost everything, like he has no job, no money, no future, he kills himself. And Death, like actual death, she did not like that. She felt like he was kind of spitting in the face of everything she stood for. So she starts up this game with him in this limbo area, like not the afterlife, but almost to there. She's like, hey, I'm gonna give you like, I think it was like 13 or 12 chances to live someone else's life. And if you manage to live, I won't send you to hell. But if you manage to die in all those other lives I give you, you're gonna be tortured forever because I hate you. I loved how our main character guy was just struggling for survival in each of the lives he was forced to live through, because they weren't always the best ones, or sometimes they were the best ones and he was fighting to like hold on to it, but other times because he was going through so many emotions, he was tired of living like 13 plus lives. So sometimes he would just go up to death and be like, just kill me already, I'm done. He went through a lot of emotions, and I think that really helped his character growth, and I ended up loving it. Next up, we have, I don't even know what this one is called, but I DNF'd it. I think it's like Killer Wife, maybe? Oh, it's called Killer Lover. It's just about this wife and this husband. I think the husband's a hitman, and it's very memey. It'll just be like one shots of these characters doing something funny, and that's it. Like, no story. It was just, I don't know. I'm sure it was funny for the author to make, but because I don't really know these characters as people, I don't care. Next up, we have Killstagram. Hallelujah music. I did not know I would love this one. I ended up, well, first I started off hating this girl because I thought she was just obnoxious and airheaded. She was just another Instagram model, very van selfish, but I was wrong. She's great. She's been through so much and I love her. Basically, she's shared too much of her life on Instagram, so all these killers are out to kill her. And I'm impressed that she manages to keep surviving because they're really, really, really trying to kill her. And so it's just about this girl surviving, and I don't even know how she manages to do that. Like, wow, so much blood, so much fighting. I loved it. Next up, we have My Dear Cold-Blooded Prince. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in a low good because I love the first two seasons. It's about this girl, peasant girl, but she ends up catching the attention of the cruel Blood Prince because of her bravery. So he recruits her to come work at the palace as like a physician, but that kind of spins out of control, and eventually they end up being engaged in a fake engagement, and she's not happy about it, and the guy's like, hey, I'm the king, I make the rules. I love the first two seasons in this because it was very funny, and I liked the three leads, the love triangle. However, in season 3, it was just stretched out too long. It was just basically the girl and the guy she ends up with touring the country, trying to convince all the governors, I guess, to accept them as king and queen. And it was kind of boring. Even the main villain in this just kind of showed up, and they just gave him a stern talking to, and he just left. It was kind of a let down to a good series. So that's why it's not hallelujah music. It's just good. Next up, we have Flower War. I'm gonna put that in oi so bad, but a high oi so bad. It started off good. It's about this group of astronauts. I think they're astronauts, but they're in space, so I'm gonna call them astronauts. They go up into space like you do when you're an astronaut, and they end up on this space station, I think. A space station. that's being taken over by evil plants. And like almost everybody dies immediately, and it was fantastic. I loved it. But then we got deeper into the story as our main character girl, is trying to survive the evil plants. And then it just got really confusing and very slow compared to how dynamic the webtoon started in the beginning. I liked what the ending implied, but it was the middle parts that just kind of sagged for me. Ending and beginning was great, everything else not so much. Our main villain guy disappeared for like the majority of the webtoon, if that indicates how weird it is. Now we have Mosquito Wars. So I'm gonna put this into a low good. So it's about us humans, but it's also about mosquitoes, which have evolved and they're just killing everyone. Like, just think about how many mosquitoes there are in the world. Like, probably over 1 trillion, and there's just 7 billion of us, probably. And now imagine those mosquitoes gigantic. Yeah, we are dead. There's only like 4,000 humans, I think, left in this world. And they're trying their best to kill all the mosquitoes in the Mosquito War. And I just gotta say, I love the mosquito designs in this book because they look so cute, but they're so deadly. And I don't know what the tone of this webtoon is. It starts off so serious and bloody, then it becomes like lighthearted and funny, then it goes back to being very serious. And I like that, but the ending just had me like questioning everything. I'm like, what is this? But it was still a fun ride. I don't know what happened at the end, but I liked getting there. Next we have Magical Soda Pop. This is about a group of girls who ends up like with all these soda cans, and each soda like gives you a magical ability, like the ability to swim or dance. Well, those aren't really magical abilities, but you know, you can swim better or you can dance better. Some give you the ability to run really fast, other gives you the power to like duplicate yourself. But each soda can comes with like a cost, a side effect. And I liked reading this one because it gave me like Fairly Odd Parents vibes, like, oh, what are they gonna do with this soda can today? Like, what type of wish are they gonna make today? And it was very cute. So it's going into the good category. It's definitely like a metaphor for like drug use. Like, you get so addicted to something, but the side effects afterwards are very, very harmful to you and the people around you. So just saying that, you can probably tell how the ending's gonna be, like what the big message is. But it was a very cute, vibrant tale, and I liked all the girls. Next up, we have Eggnoid. Hallelujah music. This is about our main chick. She is super lonely. I related to this girl so much. She has never, succeeded in making friends, mostly because she never felt like she had to. She always had just that one person named Wolfie in her life, and that she felt like she just needed that. But Wolfie, who is kind of stupid, he thinks that he's like hindering her by being her only friend, so he tells her to get lost and stops being friends with her. This sends our girl into like an existential crisis because now she has nothing. She doesn't even have her parents. She has one aunt and a big empty house. That's it. But one day she wakes up and there's this mysterious like giant capsule beside her. She opens it up and there's this hunky man inside of it, and someone gave her a hunky man to make her feel better, and I loved it. Why won't anyone give me a hunky? But the main problem is this hunky man, even though he looks like a whole grown man, he's actually like has the mind of a baby. So she has to raise him to be a human person, because he's something called an eggnoid. So yeah, it started out so sweet, just this really caring girl trying to teach this like newborn hunky man. This sounds so stupid describing it, but it's so cute. These two just like giving each other what the other needs. He needs someone to teach him about this new world he's on. She needs someone to fill the void in her life. It's just so cute. Next up, we have Devil number 4. Oh my gosh, I did not like this one. Boy, so bad. You remember that trope I told you from the very beginning that I did not like? Here, I'm going to give you like 2 seconds. Here it is on screen again, and now it's gone. This series is about our girl, and she's like purposefully bland, which I hate because she has no personality. And we have this other guy in the icon. He's a devil. And so he sees this girl and how miserable she is. And he's like, oh, that's like an easy mark. Like, I could get her soul for nothing. I just gotta make a deal with her. And so he goes up to her and she's like, oh, you can just take my soul. Like, I don't want it. And he's like, what the heck? you're crazy. So because he feels like kind of cheated that he can't take her soul, well, he can, but for nothing, he ends up making a contract with her, but it doesn't have like a stipulation like, oh, I'm going to give you my soul for this. They haven't found out what this is yet. So they're just like living together, and it was just very boring to me. There was never a moment where it's like, oh, that's cool. And that trope I mentioned a while ago, like this webtoon kind of goes against what it's trying to say, because okay, I'm gonna have to talk spoilers for this webtoon for a little bit, so just skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear spoilers for this. So our main girl, she has this like lifetime childhood friend, and he loves her because they were past lovers. And the girl, like, she realizes this, and she's like, no, I don't want to love you just because a past version of me loved you. So she breaks his heart. However, later on it's revealed that she and devil number 4 were past lovers, and she loves him. And I'm just like, so we're just gonna completely disregard that message you were trying to teach, that about that you're your own person and every decision is yours to make. Yeah, it wasn't fun for me. I was really glad when I finished reading it. Next up, we have Arma. It is being currently read, and I'm loving it. It's about this dude, and currently in the world, there are these things called Armas. They are people, and they have superpowers. Usually, it's they can levitate something, or they can blow up something. But that something, it can't be inorganic, and it can't be human, so they can only affect animals. Or aliens, because a bunch of aliens invade, and they're the only ones who can do something about it. However, because there are these powerful beings that don't affect humans, the humans are like, oh, you guys are threats, but you can't hurt us. So, they're trying to take down the Armas too, and the Armas be like, oh, we don't like that. So not only are they up against aliens, they're up against their own human counterparts too. It's really fun. None of the characters are really deep, but I'm just enjoying watching them blow stuff up. Next we have Taste of Illness. This one was another good one. It's this one big giant metaphor for like depression and self-doubt. So because of that, I think it's really easy to see where the ending is going and what it's trying to teach, especially given the lonely nature of our main character who has no one to like be his support system. However, I think it does a beautiful job showing it all on screen. The art is gorgeous. This author, you're going to see more of his works pop up soon, especially with one other webtoon I'm definitely going to talk about later on. But they can just really bring an image to life on page, and I loved reading the story. Next up, we have Delusion, which is another good one. The art in this one was just gorgeous. I loved it. It's about this mysterious, beautiful lady living in a hotel, and this painter that she hires. He's tasked to paint her, but he can't see her. Like, she will not let him see her. And based on all these other paintings laying around the house, he has to paint a picture of her as if she's 80 years old, but he doesn't even know like how old she is, if she's really 80. But eventually these two do get to meet each other, and they talk about like what's her deal, and it's pretty fantastic. She is a mythical creature. I'm gonna let you guys guess what it is if you haven't already read the webtoon. And she ends up telling the guy her whole story because she does want that painting from him still. And I love the mysteries of the past and like her whole story and how she explains how she got into this situation. I liked this guy who wants to know more about her story and is actually falling in love with her, but he also acknowledges that he's in a super dangerous, precarious situation right now and is also trying to escape the house he's locked in. Yeah, it was fantastic, and I loved it. Next up, we have Epilogue. This one's really short, it's pretty new, and it's another good one. It is creepy. It is about this guy. He's an author, and he writes not a really popular, what are they called? People who write novels, but they're only published in newspapers. He writes like a chapter, he sends it to the newspaper, they print it in the newspaper. That's what he does. But he doesn't have a lot of fans, but he does have this fan, and they're crazy and they're obsessed with him. Now, there is a lot of things going on in this webtoon, and that's just one of them, and I cannot tell you more because it's heavily riddled with spoilers, but this is also a very creepy webtoon. Like, just the way these characters are drawn, especially their eyes. Oh, it gives you chills just having them look at you. Next up, we have Nevertheless, which is going right into trash tier. Same author that wrote My Boo, which is right next to it in trash tier. Mostly, the reason I hate not really hate, I just don't like this webtoon, is because I couldn't sympathize with the main girl character because she was making terrible decisions all the time. It's about our girl character right there in the yellow cardigan, looking nice, looking snazzy. She breaks up with her current boyfriend and she falls in love with this obnoxious butthole in the arrogant purple shirt. And he's awful. We hate him. He's a womanizer, a player, but she's still obsessed with him. The main point of discussion in this webtoon is whether friends with benefits can become more, or if it's just completely taboo to do that at all. But the main thing that turned me off the series is that they have such an unhealthy relationship that it poisons all her other relationships. And it's not like it's ever resolved or she tries to fix it, because she's always pining after this guy and she don't deserve that. No, it just wasn't fun for me. Next up we have Dark Mortal, which is going into good. This is about a young boy, I think his name is Nam, because of an awful childhood accident that killed his parents and blinded him. He's been teased his whole life. He can't see anything except this cute little black and white guy on his shoulder named Inky. He's the only thing that he can see, and Inky's like his best friend. No one else can see Inky. But what is Inky? It doesn't seem like he's there for altogether good purposes. And eventually, as Nam goes on throughout life, Inky's role in his life becomes a little bit more complicated, and it leads to a whole bunch of events that gets a whole lot of people in trouble, and I loved every second of it, especially Inky. He's the cutest and he's the best friend ever. I love him. I do highly recommend that you reread this series when you finish it, because it makes the first season so much more enjoyable when you already know what's what and who's who. Because in season 1, some things do get lost, or you're like, was that explained? I don't think that was explained. But then it gets explained in season 2. So then I immediately went back and reread season 1 and just made the whole thing so much better to me. Next up, we have This Magical Moment, which I am currently reading. It's a very slice of life webtoon. I've said that before, I feel like 3 times already, but it really is. It's about this witch, this aspiring nun, and this actor just living their lives and how they interact off each other. Interacting, intersecting. The actor's in love with the witch. The aspiring nun is afraid of the witch. The witch is annoyed by both of them. But they do get to become best friends. And it really does just highlight the little moments in life that makes living magical. It's cute. There's no gripping plot. It's just cute to read, especially with all the little brothers and sisters in this series. They're adorable. And they're written like kids really well. They have that whimsical magicalness in their eyes, and it's adorable. Next up, we have Forest of Humans. It's great. It's good. It's about this girl. She works at this research facility. You can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes because this place is shady. They have managed in this building to collect all these horrible murderers, crazy level murderers. And the public believes these people have already been executed, but they're really doing experiments and research on these murderers. Well, the murderers escape from their cells and they're killing everyone, and our main character girl is the only one left alive besides all the murderers. So it's basically her trying to escape the building she's trapped in for the whole webtoon. And it's great. I loved it. And this, it sounds so dark, but this was actually a really funny webtoon too. So highly recommend. Next up, we have The Golden Spoon, another good one. So usually with me, this is a prince and a pauper type of book. 2 boys who switch places. Typically, that's not the type of trope that I like. I don't like it when 2 people switch bodies and have to live in each other's shoes and learn valuable lessons. But this one was good because you see this main character right here with the black hair and the white shirt? Yeah, we love to hate him. He's awful and he's our main character. But I love reading about him. He has been raised in a very poor but very loving family. And he's jealous of his friend right here off his left shoulder, who is raised in a very rich house, but with a very strict and distant father, no mother. So when our poor character gets the chance to switch places with the rich character, but totally against the rich guy's wishes, the rich guy had no say at all in what was happening in his life, and the poor main character just takes it over completely. The one you're rooting for is not the main character. But even though so many characters in this series is absolutely hateful and you don't want them to succeed, they're all written really well, which is fantastic. The way that they switch places is that the poor boy, he gets a hold of the golden spoon, and if he eats 3 meals at the rich kid's house, he'll swap places with the rich kid. rich kid will go into poor kid's life with no memories about his previous life as the rich kid. Poor boy will still keep all of his memories, but he'll be living in rich boy's place now. All the pictures, all the videos of them, like if the dad had filmed poor boy's, I don't know, play recital, it'll show previous rich boy in it, but now he's the poor boy. It gets kind of complicated towards the end because everybody is trying to get this golden spoon, and there's so many decoy fake ones out there that you kind of keep losing track of who actually has the real one, but it was fantastic. Next up we have Don't Hate, which I am currently reading. I'm only like 15 episodes in. It's about this dude, but he is the last human in the world that is ran by anthropomorphic animals. And I think this killer whale in the icon is in love with the human guy. And I think the human guy has the crush on a horse person, but it's pretty funny. So I don't know what direction this webtoon's gonna go, but I'm having fun with it right now. Next up we have Age Matters, which I'm gonna put in the good category. Mainly because I related with the girl, because she's like, look at me, I'm getting older, I'm decaying, there's nothing to live for in life. But then she meets the younger billionaire and they fall in love and junk, and it's ooey gooey romantic. It was fun and it was funny. My main thing about this though, even though it ended well, is that in both seasons there is this story arc involving a hitman, and the hitman is just kind of ridiculous, and it's a hitman, we should be intimidated by that, but no, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. And that's really my only issue with the webtoon. Other than that, it was fantastic. Next up we have Lilac 200%, which is another like Prince and the Pauper tale. Two people switching places. We have the tall girl on the right, who is a K-pop star, and we have the short girl on the left who was just a mega K-pop fan. She's in love with this one K-pop group performer, and she's constantly trying to get his attention, buying stuff for him. Well, one day they end up switching places. I think they get into a car accident together and it just swaps their brains or something like that. But my favorite thing about this, even though I usually don't like switching lives stories, is that both these characters are totally fine switching places. The fangirl would love to be a K-pop star, and the K-pop star is like so tired of her job and she wants a break. So throughout the whole webtoon, none of these girls are really trying to switch places. They're fine. And that was refreshing to me. That was funny. Next up we have My Deepest Secret, which I'm putting in meh. So season 1 came out, then season 2, and I read all of those, and I loved it. It was fantastic. The plot twist at the end of season 2, I did not guess, and it blew me away. But then, it went on hiatus for a bit to prepare for season 3, then season 3 finished, then I was like, okay, I'm going to reread the series from the start, and, just reread it from the start so I can really appreciate it now that I know the twist. But upon my second reread of it, I did not like it as much. Season 1 especially just went by in a blur. Season 2 was mostly two characters sitting in a cave and talking forever. In season 3, because the season 2 plot twist kind of got a lot of controversy around it, I felt like it led to a really lackluster season 3 because they weren't ready or prepared to go back to that topic that was controversial in the first place. Season 3 was basically the two characters in a car for most of the time just talking out their feelings, and then it ended. It had an open ending, kind of open to interpretation regarding the girl character's ending, which I did not like. But for a story about a girl with her crazy murderous boyfriend who won't let anyone get near her, it was still pretty entertaining. But I don't know, just didn't have that extra charm that I was looking for. Next up we have Dice, which I'm currently reading, and right now it's my favorite one that I'm currently reading. It's about this boy, and it's the boy in the icon, but he did not always look like that. He was actually kind of ugly to begin with, and he was teased, and he was just made to be like the servant to all the bullies to go get them snacks and everything at school. And so he hates his life, and he wants to change, he wants to be handsome, he wants to be popular, but he can't do that. But one day he gets a hold of this dice, and it's a dice that actually enhances your stats, like your agility, your appearance, your smarts. And so life starts to get better for him because he's becoming a whole different person. He can do whatever he wants. But eventually, other people get a hold of these magical dice, and then things go crazy, and it's fantastic. I just, before filming this, I got to a plot twist, and it's pretty good. Next up, we have To Love Your Enemy. Season 1, I started loving it, but season 2 is a meh for me, dog. If you like a fake dating trope, you'll probably like this one. To Love Your Enemy is about a girl. She is very unfortunate. Both her parents are in jail. She accidentally got involved in a pyramid scheme, and she was a good employee of the pyramid scheme. She was making money for the company, but she ended up ruining a lot of people's lives accidentally, including this handsome fella's mother's life. And so he kind of took some revenge on her, but then they went their separate ways. She changed her name. Now she's going back to college, and she's trying to live her life right. But unfortunately, it's the same college this dude that once threatened her attends, and he recognizes her even though she changed her name. But due to some situations which were not actually properly addressed, like this main character dude, his father wants to set up an engagement with some other rich business owner's daughter, and our dude ain't about that. So he and main character girl enter this fake dating relationship, and the whole plot line about his father and the other girl and the other engagement is never mentioned again. But these two, they're in a fake dating relationship, and they are so cute together and wholesome, and I love them. I think the dude's name is Yik Young, and I love him. He is beautiful, man. Adorable. I love him. So I was enjoying season 1, just watching their interactions. But season 2 is all about infiltrating a cult, and that just came out of nowhere. It was kind of boring. And again, that whole plot line about the dad just ends up going nowhere. And the ending was just it just was sudden. Oh, now we're done. There was no closure, no future, no promise of an epilogue or a spinoff. It just didn't end right, so that really affected my rating on it. Next up, we have Unholy Blood, which is currently being read, and it's great. I'm loving it. I only have 10 or 15 episodes left about this girl. She's a vampire, but she does not like vampires, so she's on a mission to kill them all so her brother and sister who aren't vampires can live a safe life on Earth. And she's kick butt, and she's awesome, and I really like the art in this webtoon. It's fantastic. Next up, we have Luff, which I'm putting in the meh. Luff is about, I don't know how else to describe it, but it's this dating app. Well, first, I don't even know how to properly describe Luff. It's the way the government works in this series. It's Luff. Based on your certain score and how well you connect with your partner, it opens up opportunities for you. If you have a good Luff score, you'll get loans, you'll get into a good college, but if you have a bad one, you're going to struggle to make it in this world, which is dumb because it's just based on your fingerprints and how well you get along with your partner, which shouldn't affect how you get a loan. So I was never behind the world building of that. But you see this girl here doing all the science math? Yeah, she wants to be an astronaut, but she can't go into the astronaut program until she gets her Luff score. So she gets her score, and something impossible happens. She, unlike any other person on Earth right now, has 2 matches, so she can choose between dude A or dude B, and she's not down with this whole Luff thing to begin with, so she's like, well, I'm gonna do some science stuff and figure out what's the variable, why does the Luff system put me with these two, and how am I gonna decide why I should be with either boy A or boy B. It was fun watching her make relationships with boy A and boy B, but just based on her character, I knew where the ending was gonna go based on regarding her decision on boy A or boy B. So it was kind of predictable. It was still nice, but still, there's just so much that was kind of overlooked that I couldn't overlook. Next up, we have Fluffy Boyfriend, which today, before filming this, I stopped reading. Fluffy Boyfriend is about this girl, and she's cursed. She, if someone makes skin contact with her, they get paralyzed for a week, and they can't move, and they're in excruciating pain. It's like a defense mechanism. Well, this part's really confusing, but apparently in her past as a kid, she had this pet cat, but the pet cat wasn't a cat. It was actually a dude who could turn into a cat. Then the dude was taken away, then he came back, then he went to live with her mom's best friend. They were still friends, but she also had the cat, and then it was just really confusing, their whole backstory and how they're actually childhood friends, and I was just so confused. And I didn't like the dialogue or even the art style, so I just stopped reading. It's just the story, itself, and the exposition wasn't handled well, and that's the real turn off for me. Next up, we have The Nightmare Factory. This is a DNF, but I'm putting it in the trash category because, well, I don't even know what this series is about. But I tried to read it, and on the very first episode, there is a warning before the comic actually starts. And the warning says, hey there, this is gonna sound weird, but the first 5 or so episodes of this comic do not make sense, but if you just bear with me, it'll start making sense. Yeah, I read the first 5 episodes and it was just weird. I didn't know what was happening, and I know it begged me not to quit until I finished reading those 5 episodes, but I was just so weirded out, man. I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to say, what you're trying to draw, but I'm done. So yeah, it's goodbye. Next up we have Dating with a Tail, which I'm currently reading. It's about this fox. The fox fell in love with a woodcutter, and the fox went to the mountain spirit and said, "Mountain spirit, turn me into a human so I can marry the woodcutter." And mountain spirit is like, "Okay, darling, I can do that. You'll have 10 chances, 10 reincarnations to live a human life, and if you get the woodcutter to marry you in one of those lives, you'll live happily ever after with him." Well, she doesn't do that, and now she's on her 10th life, and she's in trouble. If she doesn't marry the woodcutter, she's going to turn to a fox forever. And it's really funny because she has these 3 possible candidates for who the woodcutter is. One of them is her childhood best friend, the other is her boss, and the other is a priest. So this is hilarious, and it's just filled with like love rectangle drama. I love it. Next up we have The Girl from Class, which is going into good. It has a very unique drawing style to it. Like, none of the characters have eyes, and it's just about this very slice of lifey, just this guy falling in love with this girl from class. And there's also this different girl from class falling in love with him. He's just too oblivious, too starstruck by this other girl to notice. And I loved how like thoughts were drawn out in this comic. It was very unique. Like, I remember him asking girl A out on a date was like kind of drawn out, like him doing a ski jump, like how you go down that hill and you feel like you're out of control, but once you take that leap, you're flying and you feel so excited. It was good at doing visual metaphors, and the art really like laid to the strengths of the storytelling in this. I really enjoyed it. Next up, we have Rasuminara. I have practiced that name. I don't even know if I got it right. I love it. It's great. It's the same person. It's the same person that wrote A Taste of Illness. And again, it's that beautiful metaphorical writing style. This one is talking about the fear of growing up, and it's beautiful. Like, sometimes you just have this beautiful black and white art style, and sometimes it'll take like the form of very realistic puppets or like folded origami images, and it was gorgeous to read. I loved it. I loved the message, and my favorite, I can't believe I almost forgot to talk about this, but like I said, it's very metaphorical, and it shows it in its drawing style. Now there's this one character, and he ended up being my favorite character. I can't remember him, but you will know him the second you see him, because he's portrayed as this very arrogant guy with a big head, and he's literally drawn as this guy with a gigantic head. Like, everybody else looks normal, but then you just got this guy with this big fat head, and it's hilarious, and I love him. Next up we have Witch Creek Road, which is currently being read. I ain't gonna lie, I don't know what's going on here. I'm lost. Season 1 was great, but now I'm almost done with it and I'm just so confused. Help. Next up we have Got a Bath, which I'm putting into meh. It's by the same author as Taste of Illness and Rasuminara. This one is just a guy working at a bathhouse, and he's scrubbing people, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, some of you out there might be really interested on how a bathhouse works, but not me. Also, I did not like the way this one was drawn. I think the thing that like freaked me out the most is that the main character's armpits were so hairy, and I've never seen that in a webtoon before. It kind of freaked me out. The humor in this was kind of, childish and butt related. There was a lot of butt jokes, but it had its good moments, so that's why it's staying in meh. Next up we have For the Sake of Sita. I remember none of this. I just know it's about this girl, and she lives in Nepal, and I can't remember what they're called, but it's this group of women who are like the representative of their goddess on Earth until like they have their period. Then they're no longer considered holy, and it's about this girl living as that representation of the goddess and the dude she ultimately ends up falling in love with. Besides that, I can't remember anything about this, so it's going in meh. Next up, we have Lessa. I have so many mixed feelings about Lessa. I'm gonna put it in Oi So Bad, along with Lessa 2. Now, Lessa and Lessa 2, I love the characters, especially Lessa himself. He's hilarious. However, the main character's name is Ray, I think. Reynold? I don't know. And he's a very copy and paste character. He's nothing special, but he somehow has these godlike powers, which makes him really, just hard to deal with. And Lessa has a cool premise to start with. It's about this world, and, people just living it up, having a good time, until these things called demons show up, and they start killing everyone who's a regular human. And these demons originally were human too, but they're turning into demons demons somehow. And our main character, Reynold, runs into Lessa, who has something to do with the demons. It was just a very long, ongoing series that took forever to actually accomplish anything to me. One thing that kept me there was the occasional spurts of humor, which were pretty good. Again, especially concerning Lessa himself. There is also apparently a season 3 of this, but it's not on Webtoons, and I have no idea where to find it. So if you don't want to read a Webtoon that you can't actually finish, you probably want to stay away from Lessa. Next up, we have Subtle Disasters, which is going into the good category. I really like it. It is a very anxiety-inducing webtoon. It's about this webtoon artist who's living in this apartment and his neighbors are just noisy, and it's frustrating. And eventually, because everyone's trying to outdo each other with the amount of noise they make, because they're irritating each other, so they're trying to irritate the person next to them who's trying to irritate them back. They eventually get into this contract on who can be the quietest in the apartment. And the noisiest person in the apartment has to pay like a fine or something. And it gets crazy and it gets petty and everyone ends up hating each other, and I loved it. Next up, we have Deep. This one's going into the meh category because it starts off really interesting. It's about all these people who were lost at sea, declared dead for decades, suddenly reappearing. And the main premise, or at least what we're promised about this story is that it's somehow tied with like climate change and how this is like the Earth's way of getting back at all the toxins that we've dumped into the ocean, but it is never addressed or explained how it's like that. And it was literally promised in the first episode that this is what all these dead people returning is about. So it had its creepy moments, but it was also just a lot of story, but nothing was really explained, so that's why it's a meh to me. Next up, we have Dead Days, which is another meh. As another zombie apocalyptic story, it was good. It took a different take on zombies that I really appreciated. But I do think it was a bit too much story for the author to handle, because a lot of things were kind of forgotten about, just not explained well. The second season of this story is actually a prologue telling us how we got to the events of the first season, and then at the very last couple of episodes for season 2, then it wraps up the present timeline. I didn't feel like it gave it enough time to do that storyline justice, but still, I love the art and I love the characters. They were very great. Next up, we have Duty After School, which, okay, I'm gonna put this, low good. This is about these spherical purple aliens invading Earth. At first, it doesn't seem like they're doing much. They just float there. But when they do decide to attack humans, it's brutal. And because the human population is going down quickly, the Korean army has recruited high school students and middle school students. And so it's about these kids just coming together to be this new army regiment. And it kind of reminded me of Assassination Classroom, just a little bit, especially how there's a lot of interview segments scattered throughout the series, which I really liked. And I think it was a very good representation on, I don't know how to put it in words, just what people go through in constant war, because it was shock and horror at first, but the more these kids just went to work fighting these aliens, they got more jaded to where it didn't even bother them anymore, and to the point where they had to make really hard decisions like it was nothing. The ending was very shocking, but it made a lot of sense, and it's not a happy ending too, but it's a good ending, especially for all the characters and what they went through. Next up, we have something I am super angry about. Noblesse. So, I know this one's really popular, but Noblesse is going in the trash because I just finished it yesterday and I hated the ending. Along with Noblesse Rise Adventure, which was just a little 10-episode spin-off series, but it didn't give anything to Noblesse as a whole, so I don't even know why it existed. It's not like that story ties into the main Noblesse story, so it's in trash too. Noblesse though, even though I love every single character, especially Frankenstein and Rye, there was just so much going on, so much plot for 500 episodes, but no payoff at the very end. It's one of those endings where there is definitely a next season coming, but there just never was a next season, so there are so many questions. What this comic is about is actually pretty hard to describe, but basically, there is this thing called the Noblesse, and he is the most powerful of this group called the Nobles. He is super powerful, but his power does come with a very hefty price. And because of that hefty price, our main character, Rai, the Noblesse, has been asleep for like 800 years or so. But now he's awake, and he's reunited with his servant Frankenstein, and now they're going on all sorts of adventures. The first season was very good. I love season 1 because it was funny. Like, Rai, because he's been asleep for 800 years, he doesn't know how to interact with technology. He doesn't know how to open electronic doors. He doesn't even know how to open a banana. And it was adorable. It was great seeing him play like a video game. He was fascinated with how ramen was made, and I loved that. As far as character interactions goes, Noblesse was very good, but that ending just ruined the whole series for me, so I'm very sad. Next up, we have Where Tangents Meet. So even though it was enjoyable, but I'm gonna put it as a meh because I don't even know what the purpose of this story was. It was just a guy and a girl. The guy's like, the edgy boy with a reputation at school, and the girl is like naive to the point of being perceived as stupid. So a lot of people make fun of her, and you would never think that these two would get together, but they do, and they fall in love, and that's what the whole series is about. It's cute, but I got nothing more to say about that. Next up, we have Flow, which I did not finish because it was boring. So it is about this world of people, and each person has like this patron god, and each god is like a type of animal. Like, you can have a crow or a cat or a wolf. Our main character, his patron god is a cat, and for some reason that's looked down upon, like it's a lesser animal. And once in their lifetime, the human can make a wish and their god can grant it. And I cannot remember if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Like if it's good to make the wish or if it's bad because there's a hefty consequence with the wish. I can't remember. But for some reason, our main character does not want to make a wish with his cat god. But because the circumstances forced upon him, he does. He's forced to do it. And it's revealed later on that his cat god may be more than everybody thought it was. Now that sounded interesting. But then he ends up going to this high school filled with like these people. I don't know how to describe them. And then there's like tournaments for some reason. And then we're on a mission to do something. Like, I was just so lost in the plot. I didn't know what we were trying to accomplish. There was so much exposition when it really should have just took on a simpler approach. And when I was reading this originally, I took like a 3-day break, and then I came back to read it, and I could not remember out of all these characters which one our main character was. Like, he blended in. I literally could not remember what his face looked like. And look, it's right there on the icon. So yeah, it didn't leave a good impression on me. Okay, and next up we have Witch Hunt, which is going into Oi So Bad. Witch Hunt is about this boy. He goes to school, I think it's like a middle school, and he meets this girl, and he realizes that she's a witch, and that floating marble on her neck, that's like the source of her power. And our main guy character is like, oh, I want to steal it, just to steal it. He doesn't even need it or want it. He just wants to prove, I'm cool because I can steal this from you. So he does, and that gets our witch girl into a lot of trouble, so she's forced to like move away for a bit. Some years pass, and she and the main guy character are reunited again, and then a bunch of stuff happens. The main issue with this webtoon is that a lot of what was happening was explained in the middle of the webtoon when it really should have it should have done that in the beginning, because in the beginning this group of demons is after the witch lady, and we don't know why for the longest time. But then in the middle it's finally explained why, in a backstory explaining the whole witch's past and what exactly a witch is and how they're made, and that was great. But then when that finished, we went back to the previous timeline in the future, and it was so boring. And the main reason I have a problem with none of this being explained earlier is that so many characters looked so similar to each other. So all those demons looked very similar. So many witches have the same exact face. 3 characters, including our main girl, have the same face, which would make it super confusing later on. I would think this character was this character, which just confuzzled the whole story for me. The art was very pretty though. I did like that, especially with like the demon forms. They were very shadowy. I was very lost in the story because, again, none of the characters stood out or were even properly introduced. They just all kind of showed up, and I did not like the ending at all. Next up, we have Orange Marmalade, which is going into Hive. I enjoyed it, but still, it could have been a lot more. My main beef with this story, which is about, again, because it's by the same people who wrote Days of Hannah, so it kind of follows the same story, but instead of werewolves, it's vampires. Vampires and humans are living in the same society, but vampires are like looked down upon. They're ostracized and hated. So our girl, I think her name is Mary, she's attending a regular high school, and she's trying to keep her identity as a vampire a secret, but because she has this bloodlust, like she wants to drink blood, she accidentally ends up kissing this guy's neck, and he's kind of freaked out, but also like, oh, that was intriguing. So now he's obsessed with her and trying to get her to date him. But Mary's like, no, I don't want to date you. But he just won't leave her alone. And I was just never like for this ship. I did not ship these two. I did not like the main guy character at all, just as a person. So in a romance, when I'm not liking the main leads, that's a big issue. Mary herself was fine. It's the guy again that I had a problem with. I was rooting for the white-haired vampire guy who shows up later on to like steal her away. I wanted them to end up together, but no, because the only way to redeem this guy, the main guy and the icon, is through her love. No. I wanted white-haired guy. Next up, we have Girls of the Wilds, which is going up here into good. I love this. It's about this really competitive high school. All the girls, because it's an all-girl school, they do like mixed martial arts. They fight. And like they're just renowned across the world as the best fighters ever. Well, one year, they open up as a co-ed school, and only one guy shows up as the new student, and because he's the only guy, like, all the girls fall in love with him, and it's great. I loved it. I loved all the characters. Like, there are a ton of characters in this series, but each of them is, like, given a really good personality. I loved, like, at first it was, like, a fighting competition. Like, we got to see all that and how the girls train, but then it also showed their more tender moments, just them hanging out together. And it was so good as a character-driven reader. Like I am, I was having a blast. And we are almost done. Now we have Untouchable, which I'm going to put up here in good. Oh, my computer's getting laggy. Untouchable is again another vampire story, but instead of drinking blood, they absorb energy through touch. And this girl, she accidentally touches this guy, her next door neighbor, and he just has this amazing energy, I guess, because she can't stop thinking about him. And he is a hypochondriac. He does not like people touching him. So it becomes kind of impossible for her to like get fed off of his energy, and she only wants him, so she's kind of starving herself now. So she tries desperately to get into like a dating relationship with him so she'll have an excuse to touch him more. And you know, it's kind of like a fake dating thing. And then it turns into more. And I loved it. Next up, we have Cherry Blossom, which is going into meh. It was very short. I think it was less than 10 episodes. And I think because it was very short, I did not absorb the story as well as I should have. But what I think happened is it's about this guy, and he wants to confess his feelings for a girl, I think, but it does not end well, and somehow it's related to how cherry blossoms grow on trees, and I do not know the story, so I'm gonna pretend I didn't even mention it. Next up, we have Winter Woods, which I'm currently reading. If you are a fan of Edward Scissorhands, you would definitely like Winter Woods. I only have like 7 more episodes left, and I'm finished. It's about this young boy, but he's not a boy, he's an experiment. He was made by this alchemist like 100 years ago. Well, the alchemist died, so one day this team of researchers find the house and they find Winter still in the basement. They get him out and take him to a laboratory, and they think that he possibly holds the key to immortality because he's been alive and untouched by time for all these years. But they don't think he's actually human. So in order to like tell what the heck he is, they send him to live with this girl who has no idea like what Winter really is, and the scientist just wants to see how they interact with each other, if this Winter, this thing, can like show love or human emotions, and he just gets so cute so fast. Next up, we have Gepetto, which is a DNF. It's about this world where humans made androids, and like every android thing ever, the androids rebel and try to kill all the humans. Except there's this one android named Whale. Like, you know, this like Pinocchio, Gepetto, and the Whale. Whale is the only good android who has like a mission to save humanity. And I didn't get far into it. It's just a whole bunch of exposition dumped on you all at once. And especially throughout like the comic, there's a lot of action scenes, which is good, but all the speech bubbles and dialogue was just talking about the technology they were using, which is great if you're into that, but I want like the people to talk about themselves and what people would just talk about instead of like talking about jammers and scanners all the time. And because I couldn't connect any characters, I didn't care to keep reading about them. Next up, we have, what's it called? Dragnarok. I'm gonna put this in the Oi So Bad one, and it had a second season called Dragnarok 2 Descendants, which I DNF'd. Now, Dragnarok had a very good prologue. It was creepy. It's about this kingdom where certain peoples can turn into dragons, and I am all for that. Love me some dragons. But after that prologue, all the dialogue was just purely devoted to exposition, so it really was not enjoyable because, again, I couldn't get to know any of the characters, and it ended interesting enough. It had a big fight, and I was actually interested to see what more would happen. However, Ragnarok Season 2 is a prologue. So after that epic fight ending Season 1, we're now like going 50 or 100 years into the past. So I didn't know what would happen for a long time after that fight scene because I had to read the prologue. But then I decided to do some looking around, and apparently there's a Season 3, but that Season 3 is not available on Webtoon. So that's why I stopped reading Ragnarok 2, because if I couldn't get the third season, why even bother? Next up we have Faust, which is going into Oi So Bad. Faust is about this clueless little guy named Gabriel, who is just about the most annoying main character ever, and he becomes kind of friends, kind of lovers with this tall dude named Matteo. Matteo, his whole family is like under a demon curse, and Matteo is the current host of the demon. So somehow, because this part was really confusing when I first read it, either Matteo unconsciously makes a deal with Gabriel while the demon's possessing Matteo, or Matteo just really doesn't like Gabriel to begin with and does the deal consciously. This one was really confusing, like I said, because in the beginning it's not explained that Matteo gets possessed by a demon periodically at random, but it was only explained through a Q&A, so not in the actual story, that he gets possessed by a demon periodically, which is very bad storytelling. But anyways, they end up making a deal. Gabriel has to make a wish every day through Matteo, or else Gabriel dies and his soul gets taken away. So it was interesting seeing what wishes Gabriel would make, but again, the characters, I just couldn't do it. Also, let's just look at Gabriel's face for a bit. I hate his character design. His eyes are so big for his face, and his hair looks so tiny, and he has this stupid little white hair on top of his head. He is I can't stand looking at him. Okay, next series. We have Hive, which I'm currently reading. Now, this is one of those other apocalyptic stories, and I didn't think I would like it. However, I'm currently loving it. It's just, it's the world, and then these giant bugs take over. So now we're shooting all the bugs. It is so actiony. There is a grandpa in this series who is the best hero ever. We love Gramps. And if you just want to watch a bunch of people shoot and kick giant bugs, this is a good one. Next up we have Noblesse, which I am currently reading. It's about this boy, and he's pretty young, and he had this genius sister who invented like these little nanobots, and she put them in an android, and now the android who possesses the Noblesse, whatever she touches, she can disintegrate or just tear apart. She's the strongest android ever. And the scientist who made her, for some reason, she commits suicide, but her last instructions to the android she created is to guard her little brother. So it's about their relationship and just the whole mystery about what is Noblesse. It's also very funny, and sometimes it's pretty fourth wall breaking, so I'm having fun with the humor. Next up we have Super Secret, which is going into the meh. I love the art style, and it's just sweet. It's about this clueless girl who is perfectly human, and she doesn't know that everyone around her is a monster. And this guy Ryan right next to her in the icon, he's a werewolf, and she doesn't know. And that's the super secret. Seeing all the ways they would try to hide their identities from her were hilarious, but it was a long series, and there wasn't really a plot to keep me engaged with it. I liked their shenanigans, but for the story, I wasn't that much of a fan. Next up, we have Freaking Romance, which is going into meh, mostly because I did not like the main dude. The humor was funny though. This is about our girl. I can't remember her name. I just know it starts with a Z because she's quirky. Xylith. Yeah, Xylith. She moves into this loft, and it's really cheap because all the other tenants say it's haunted, that there's a dude living in there. Well, turns out there is, but he can't see her, and she can see him. So is he a ghost? Is this another dimension that she's just peeking into? And it's just their relationship and how they eventually do get to know each other and see each other. The humor was funny, but I could not stand the dude. I cannot pinpoint why. It's just whenever I look at him, I don't like him, and I'm filled with uncontrollable rage. And that's all I have to say about the matter. And next up we have Live Forever, which is the second webtoon I've ever finished on Webtoons. And and it's meh, like, it's fine. It's about this girl, and she is sick of everybody dying on her. Her family, they keep dying. And so she happens to find out that her next door neighbor is a vampire. So she wants to take his blood and like make some magical potion out of it in order to like give her family immortality. And there are a lot of bad side effects that happen because of this. And it's all her fault. I like how this is like a message about how to handle grief. And I love the art. I like that black and white art style with like little pops of red every now and then. Live Forever had that. Bite Me had that. I don't really have anything bad to say on the series. It didn't click with me. But now we have one final one. Save Me. This is going into trash. Oh my gosh. So actually, I did not finish this webtoon, but it is definitely trash because apparently Save Me is a BTS fan. Yeah. Now, I don't know anything about BTS. I don't know who the band members are. I don't know what they look like. But you know, if this is a good story and it uses good storytelling, it'll introduce me to all the band characters and what their personalities are like. But they're not really living as band characters in this story. There are 7 or 8 friends, and one of the friends somehow is stuck in a time loop. He's living the same day over and over again. It's going to keep repeating until he saves all the lives of all his friends who managed to all die on the same day. How they do that, I don't know. So that sounds interesting, and it was only like 15 episodes long. I could have read it all, but I didn't because I couldn't tell any of the main characters apart. They had the same haircuts. None of them had personalities, so I didn't get attached to them, so I left. I'm sorry, BTS. It wasn't my jam. But y'all, thank you so much for watching. Here's a little glimpse of all the webtoons, from the ones I loved, the ones that were awesome, the ones that were pretty okay but had some issues, the ones that hurt me, the ones that hurt me even more, ones I quit, the ones I'm still currently reading and are still enjoying, or else I wouldn't be reading them because I love DNFing stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching, and tell me what your favorite webtoon was this year, and I'll see you next year with the next wrap up.